Okay, so intentions. So this is an area that I'm, particularly passionate about. I guess, I mentioned I've done about 80 or 90 ceremonies, I think, in the last 2 or 3 years, and what I've found is that the more clear and the more time I spend in getting clarity on what my intentions are, then generally speaking, what I go into clear is what I clear in that ceremony. In fact, sometimes I've had 3 or 4 things or 5 or 6 things on my list, and I've actually in my ceremony gone through and cleared them in, and worked on them in those orders and got insights in those orders. So it's been quite interesting. So yeah, and I, so my kind of process. So I should say. There have been a number of ceremonies that I've gone into where I've set no intentions, just to let all my intentions be, just let grandmother guide me, and just show me what I need to be shown. So, I think as long as it's done in an intended way, I think it's well, my experience has been amazing. But I think if we sort of say, oh well, we just don't really know what we're there, but so you just show me something, grandma. I mean, there's different energy behind it, and it's all about the thing with getting clear on our attentions as our energy gets very focused, and so my process is generally a couple of days before the ceremony I start to have some sort of thoughts about sort of things that I might bring into the ceremony, and generally it's there's things sort of that lead in from the previous ceremony that sort of that's one thing I have noticed, is that for me that quite often I'll go in with one thing and then it'll lead into the next thing, and it'll just be like this. So I'm in sort of a deepening. So and then I'll sit down and I'll start to probably won't see this too well, but I just start to I've got a blank sort of sketch pad, and I just start to draw some pictures of what it is that I've got in my intentions, and then start to write down some notes there, so some thoughts. So there was an example here. There was just an intention. I had the sun moon dance coming up, which was a pretty intense ceremony, 3 days with no food, no water. I've never done anything like that before, so that was bringing up a whole lot of fear. So I asked grandmother's help to to clear that fear and to perhaps get some insights around it. And turned out I did that ceremony 2 weeks later, the sun moon dance, and I had no problems at all. Didn't have any issues with food and water at all over 3 days. So yeah, it was amazing. So I write them down, and then once I sort of feel like I've got it kind of clear. The other thing I do is I've got a deck of angel cards. So basically, as part of my process, I pull an angel card with the intention of just getting some sort of guidance on something that I maybe need to bring into the ceremony that night. So it's always, and I always find there's something useful there, and there's an angel that is associated with each of the messages in the cards. So there's someone else we can call on to help in our ceremonies. So I then, once I've sort of got down and I'm fairly certain that I've got it, I'm pretty close to it, I then use and this is just the way I do things. I'm not saying you do it like this. I'm just showing you my process. But I have a pendulum which my uncle gave me before I left New Zealand 2 years ago, and very, very grateful. It's made of beechwood, and you can see it's had a few been around a bit, but it still works very well. So I just go through and use my pendulum. I'm normally pretty good with my intuition, but sometimes I check with the pendulum to see first of all whether or not the intention is something I should bring into the ceremony, and then whether or not, if it is something, whether or not it needs to be changed or not, and just get a yes or no, and go through if it needs to be changed to get clarity on what needs to be changed, or if something needs to be added. Generally I sort of meditate on that a bit, and the answer will come. So by the time that's sort of my final just check in with the pendulum to make sure that as I said, my intuition is pretty sharp, but I do find the pendulum, very useful at times, just to get even more sort of like in there. So, so by the time I go into the ceremony, I'm very, very. I've spent 2 days really, getting clear. Starting off with something that's quite a little like this, but then getting very focused in terms of what I focus in on, and going into the ceremony with that energy. I feel for me I can't explain it, but it feels really important, and as a result, most of the time I tend to clear what's on my list, and often have other experience as well, and sometimes, you know, I don't clear anything on my list. So, but it's very rare, and I feel that what I've inadvertently developed is just, it's really respectful way to work with the medicines. You know, it's really showing my commitment, if you like, or well, commitment's the right word, but something to the path. You know, as opposed to just sort of turning up and sort of thinking about an intention off the top of my head. So yeah, so I can highly recommend, you know, this, well, whatever your process is. I mean, I haven't drawn and sketched anything in my life, and I've really enjoyed just having, you know, I've got some fabulous drawings that I've done. You know, I also do the journaling afterwards as well, which I'll talk about a bit later on. But so yeah, you know, maybe that's a way, just, you know, get some coloured pencils and a blank pad and see what happens. So, all right, well, I'll leave you that on intentions. And I should actually say, so generally the intentions, the shaman will ask you to bring intentions to the ceremony, and then there'll be an opportunity to state them out to the group if you want to or not. Sometimes it doesn't happen. If it doesn't happen, don't worry about it. You know, you've got your intentions with you. I generally find if that doesn't happen, I just pick them up myself, and just at some point, you know, there's generally a lot of time before the actual proper ceremony starts, I actually just reread them again to myself, and that's fine, you know. And even if you don't get a chance to do that, that whole process you've been through for a day or two is, you know, the energy's there. It's not like, you know, it's like the intention is there. So, all right, I'll leave you that on intentions. Okay.